All right, this is Mark with Not Square Design. We're on lesson 5. We're going to add detail, actually lesson 5 of the Osberg plan, and we're going to be adding detail to section BB and adding the roof to section AA. There's my contact information. You can pause to grab that. There's all of this lesson is in 2D, so it is completely compatible with AutoCAD LT. And I'll go through the rest of that in a second because back in lesson 4, for the first 5 minutes and almost 20 seconds, I went through this book, but I was on my AutoCAD window with my recording, and so I didn't see myself moving things back and forth. Hopefully it didn't cause any other issues, but that one I definitely caught. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through this real quick so that you can reference lesson 4 and be able to stop, pause, and see these for the means of egress that has to do with basically stairways is what we were talking about, with the minimum width of 36, headroom 6'8". I went through a lot more description, so then we've got the risers 7 3/4. That was important in that lesson. Then the treads, a minimum of 10 inches in depth, and then I kind of described winders and that sort of thing. But that was lesson 4, so you can go back and review that if you want to learn a little bit more about code stuff. The first we're gonna drop dimensions, correct the the energy heel, to achieve a 13-inch of height outside at the outside edge of the attic. And we won't stop at 13. That's just a minimum because we're trying to get an R60 with mineral wool of our 4.2 per inch. And so that is the minimum I've got to hit. Next, we will draw in some purely aesthetic truss webbing. These go off to a truss manufacturer, so the webbing perfection is not there. It's just kind of as a symbol to show, hey, this is a truss. And what kind of truss it is. Is it a common truss, which it is in this case. Next, we'll do a quick discussion of the outer layers of the exterior wall and how we're getting the newly required 2021 continued insulation. It was in 2018 too. 2021 has changed a little bit, especially in the cavity area. Then add the ridge vent in section BB, and then transfer the roof lines over and create a roof on section AA. So that's the game plan for today. And so one of the things that I had noticed that we had, or I hadn't completed in a previous lesson, was if you look at this, you can see there's a fade down below. And this is level 2, and that's level 1 in an XREF that's down below. So when we created those stairs in the previous lesson, we had 3 less risers. So 1, 2, and then there's a third here you can barely see. There's a faded arrow from the XREF in the top riser right hidden there. Maybe hard to see in the video, I'm not sure. So just going to drop down to the level 1 where we're going to make our changes. And the first thing I want to do is do a save as and come in and rename it with finish so that any changes I make will end up as part of the finished plan if you guys are getting copies of these to follow along. So now that that one's ready and says finish, what we need to do is we're going to pull this back, and we're going to pull it back 1, 2, 3 because it's an array. And then we're going to, I should excuse myself on that one. This is going to be broken for an upward and downward. It's snapping to something here. There we an upward and a downward. So we'll have two different kinds. So we'll have a stair above, which will be a hidden line, and then a stair below, which will not. So with this one below, I want to move it up to, and then I want to select it and pull it back to. Ends up with the same result, but this is a separate piece as it is in the upper portion. Now I need to correct my leader. So I'm just going to stretch that from this center point straight up to that intersection, come up here, and you don't have to use the stretch command on this one if you don't want. You can just grab the selection node, bring it back, and now we can save that. Go back, check our 2, and what's curious is it didn't ask me to update this guy right here. And just so you know, it doesn't need to say the word finisher. What it needs is to make sure that the path remained correct. So this is the add. This is this lesson 5. And so I want to make sure that it was pointing to start, and we changed the name to finish. So I want to point back at 1 start, or I want 1 finish. And we're gonna get rid of 1 start because it doesn't even have a place there. So there's 1 finish, and that's what I want to tell this to go to. 1 finish, open it, and now when I come back and look, that faded line that we saw through here is no longer there. So we've corrected that issue. So now, let's save this. Let's make sure that we've also saved level 1. And then this is where we would start with the end of lesson 4. This, of course, is also the end of lesson 4. So when I finish this, it'll leave you guys with the finished example. And so there's a few things that need to be corrected on this. One is that I had noticed at the top here that I had this off center, and I didn't know if this center line was correct, but I do know that this is. So if I go XL for an X line of infinite length, then I want to be V for vertical, and then drop it on that line, it did land on that blue center line. So I want to trim back those, and then I probably will end up adjusting. So over here, what we're looking for is our total height. So let's take a look. We got a distance, and we need to get it to come on out. So I wanted to snap. So I may have to do a line straight up. Oh, I had turned these off earlier. Sorry. So now that that's on, I should be able to just measure it. The distance up to there. So that's about 16. We're looking at almost 18 inches, 17 and a half. So what I'd like to do is make that a nice number of a true 18 inches. So if I do an X line, make it horizontal, drop it here, and then offset it 18, then when I tell the manufacturer I want my energy heel to be 18 inches, they will know that I want this at that level. And so first thing I'm going to do is grab this guy, and I'm going to zoom in because I need to do a projection, because I want to move straight above my baseline here to that top line of the top chord, and tell it that I want it to be at 18 inches of height. There. So with that in place, I should be able to extend this up, and it should make a perfect intersection. can see, it is awful darn perfect. So that being finished, I need to now trim it back down, extend these out, and then how does that look? Doesn't look completely terrific if this was my double top plate, but it's not. So I need to move this line down so that this is the top line of my double top plate. And that's getting in my way, so I'm going to delete it. And we don't need this one anymore. We're fixing this, so I can delete it. So what I would like to do is change this to be a thicker line. And then I'm going to move this relative from here to here. So it remains 5.5 inches. It was 5.5 inches above this line. Now it's 5.5 inches above this line. And so I can get rid of this guy. I can extend my heel up. And then I can extend that. This should be exactly still right on. It is. So I can get rid of this line. And I could probably, if this is short, yes, it is a short line. Get rid of that, get rid of that. And now I'm going to mirror this guy. All of it. And those two lines about this center point. And it should work out very nicely. So I've got a little chamfer here to get to my exterior siding layer. Extend this line out. And then we're going to go through these layers. So this is, actually, what is this line? Nothing I can think of. So we'll kill it. We don't need that, but let's get rid of it down here because I want to keep my center reference. And so one thing we can do to start this off is let's just start drawing in a truss. So I'm going to come at 22.5. It's one of my settings I keep, then 45. 67, 45. This just keeps me from having to do too much work by keeping some decently large increments. This is only a representation of a truss. And then 45 down again till I hit here, and then I'm just going to come up to that point. Now, offset 1.75 to make it so I've got a 3.5 inch web. And then it'll be erase the center out. So once all these centers were erased, and I won't do all of them, then it's just a matter, I don't worry too much about the exact way that this looks, but I do want it to be the right colors. That'll help me spot that later. And then I'll just trim this up to there. Trim these down. There. Oh, missed one. Grab that at the same time. Zoom in. That and that. Now those are all trimmed out, and I'll come and clean that up later. In fact, I'll just hit pause, do it real quick. Okay, with those all trimmed out and the right layers. There's an issue with OBS Studio. So if I'm over here and I haven't clicked back in my AutoCAD first and I hit my space bar, even though my settings over there, I have page down as my pause and record, it turns it off and on. Anybody knows how to fix that? That'd be a great tip. So I'm going to mirror. Oops, look, I missed some. So let's not mirror the mistake. I do that all the time. So CH there, trim. Now mirror it. So I'm going to mirror all those guys using my crossing from right to left. Here, down, and there's my truss. Save often. Great rule to save often. So over here, we're going to look at our wall layers. This is an insulation layer. So I'll just come in here. I think it's in the A's. Oh, my layer set's not correct. I'm set to drawing, which simplifies my layer set quite a bit. So I'm going to come up here. Now, I have that selected still. I'm going to hit A, and I'm going to come down to my A insul. And then this one is a furring, so it's an A fur. And that holds my insulation in place, just 1x4s that hold the insulation in place. And while it's still selected, I want to come down here, change this to 12 to make just the line type scale show up better. Here is going to be in my S layers because it's a structural layer for sheeting. And again, just change that LTS to, and you can see there are different looks. And hopefully they are, yeah, they're color 60. That got me in trouble a little while. I had to go do a whole bunch of changing on stuff. So if I come up here and I go look at my A's, I've got 60 under fur. That yellow is a really fat line, and 60 is my very thinnest line. See, there's my shear. It's yellow. So I'm going to change that to 60 now in this drawing because as we save on and on, I want that to be a nice thin line. I thought it was looking a little odd. Okay. So I'm going to save that. And we basically have ourselves a completed, oh, we want to put the ridge vent on this thing. So one thing I've been doing is just offsetting one, because I use another piece of software along with this called Chief Architect, and it likes to draw the vents at 1. Right now I'm just offsetting 8 because I haven't gone in to check and see what the width is on them. Then I'll trim these guys up, and we'll trim that too. So I'm going to click here and here to get all this reduced down. Then I want to trim that one and that one. Give me a ridge cap, but it's not completely finished because I want to match these. Then I'm going to break these because these magenta lines are fat, and printing 2 fat lines only an inch apart will not plot out, turn out just a big blob of ink. So then I'll take my thinnest line and change that so it'll print well. And there you, oh, we can do a real quick one here. This whole system, it's in section, comes right across. Don't know what this line is. Oh, it's for doing the porch roof on the other side. But what I wanted to do with the rest of this lesson was just show you how to get these lines over to here. So this building actually extends way out. And so I'm going to X line vertically, place on the edge of where that roof's supposed to terminate, and on the top level where it's supposed to terminate here, the solid line is the roof below. So now that I have those 2 termination points, I can take and put in some X lines here. And put them in horizontally, H, there, here, there, and there. And now I want to match the bottom one, so I've got something to play with over there, and I'll need the top one anyway. So now that those are matched properties, I have my colors I need except for the Well, we can bring those over too. MA, bring that color. And we will want that up here in this thin line here. Oh, it's not, didn't do it because that was a, you know what that just told me? This array, look at it, it's on the junk layer. If I went to print this section, my junk layers don't print. So when I created the layer, this array, I was on this layer. And that will cause you headaches. I've gotten pretty good at figuring out what my common mistakes are. You'll have to kind of figure out your own. But that is my D layers, because this is a section. So it's just all about line weight. It's not about what layer it goes on. So it should be on D object thin. And now that will print. So that fixes that. So now I can match it. So I grab that, come over, pick this thin line, and then I don't have to pick these. These two, I don't have to match them. I can also do it this way, which is my D object. So those are done. Now I want to trim and all this. So I'm going to trim all those, that, that. That was my roof, not my wall. I'll figure out in a second by putting my crosshair there. So there's my trimming. And then my crosshair shows, yes, I'm at the roof, not the wall. So I still need a wall down here. But this is going to be a steel building, possibly. It might be a mud pole barn. But right now we're talking about doing a steel building attached to this. So I have to work on thicknesses and stuff with the steel company before I make that decision. And so I'm going to match that and that. And there we have it. I can delete that out. And this is how I get my sections through here. I'll show you another little trick. I use this in elevation. We wouldn't see this in section. In fact, I wouldn't even see this fascia in section, and nor this ridge. But I will copy this over to my elevations anyway because it's the same deal. So if I do X line vertical, put that in here, and then I take and I copy this. I'm going to leave it here because even though I don't need all these details, I will need the outline of it. And then go perpendicular. I'll drop it here. Now that it's sitting in my elevation view, how I like to do stuff, especially on a big long building like this, is I'll put a spline on my junk layer. This is intentional to be on the junk. And this is why I turned these off the other day, is to do this. So now I got pretty free motion in creating a nice free form through here that won't print. That's the important part about it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops, I snapped to something. Now I got those done, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to tell it I want to hatch that, and I want to hatch that, and I do want to hatch my ridge caps too, but right this moment, I just want to pick that. I want to come down here. I'm going to pick something like this guy to make it look like a shingle, and then I need to put it on my D hatch layer. And that way this will print, but this won't. And I'll get these kind of open looking pieces through here. I leave these here because if I got to lengthen a roof, cut it off, I don't know, change the roof height because I made a mistake, these blinds are still hanging out here. And I just run them long so I can count for any changes. And then if you want to, you can hatch in there because that's going to be shingle. And then just match that guy up and do the same thing at the other end. And that's really all we need to do to this drawing for this lesson. Not to this. We're not done yet. But that's kind of a technique that I use to to make things look great. And then this will just mirror around really, because it is a mirror image of what's going on that roof out here. So take care of that, and that's what I've got for right now. So have a great evening. See you next time. This is Mark from Not Square Design. Thank you.